And we are live. We are live. It took a moment. I'm just alive. Hi everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Craig and Jane Psychic Show every Friday evening at this time. So we're going to do a special Halloween special tonight, as you can see from our setting.
You sure it's not Christmas?
And we got a guest with us this evening. A guest, Darren, who's been Jane and I have known for many, many years. And we're going to be, so if you're enjoying the channel, again, don't forget to follow it, to click the button now that you're going to follow this for future. Click that little bell thing in the corner of the screen. And we'll have an interesting talk tonight, all about the spirit world, all about the spooky side of Halloween, and share some of our ghostly experiences with you. And of course, have your questions ready so that you can ask us what's what and have your questions. So we'll say a few hellos before we get started. And I'm going to say hi from Sarah. It seems the camera's just on me at the moment. Perhaps we better switch to the main camera for all of us. There we go. Thanks, man. Hi, Craig and Jane, says Rachel.
Where's Rachel
Happy
from?
Halloween.
Where's
Looking
Rachel
forward to
from?
the show. She hasn't
Where's
said.
she from?
Hasn't said. And this is Darren.
Hi there.
So this is Darren.
And this isn't an apparition, by the way. This is the real thing.
Hi from Nana. We can't all see the screen tonight, so
No.
it's just me doing the screen, guys. And hi from Joanne Smith. Hello, Craig and Jane, and Darren as well. Don't forget Darren, who's with us tonight. Hello from Minnesota.
And who's saying hello, Craig?
That is from CADMI21.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yes. And Patricia Schultz is on again here, saying hello from Germany.
Good.
Woo hoo hoo, looking cool, she says.
Woohoo.
Now she's obviously referring to me with that. Thank you, Patricia, for that very kind comment. Ava Hackleton is saying, good evening, Craig and Jane. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to
Halloween's
you.
actually on Monday, but this is a pre-Halloween.
Yes.
And yes, well, we've had a few of those, haven't we? Faisal Jacobs is saying hello from CPT.
Where's that, Craig?
I have no idea whatsoever, but welcome. Hello from CPT.
Mm.
The CCCCP.
Mhm.
And Lottie's saying hello, sweethearts. Hi, Lottie. Nice to see you again. And yeah, well, I think we said enough hellos now. Let's have a little chat. So this, folks, is Darren.
Hi there.
Darren's worked with us quite a lot of the time, haven't you, Darren, before?
I have in Circle, yeah.
Darren joined my circle, which I used to was a development circle, and now of course Darren's a fully developed medium. But we're actually going to on this show have our own little circle going on around the table here, so you'll be able to watch a regular seance room session that we're planning, and Darren is going to be one of the guests for that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
Twisted his
love
arm
to.
already, and some of the old circle members will be joining me too. So you'll be able to get a sort of something that will help you with your psychic development and understanding. And you also joined us on the BBC, didn't you, Darren?
Yeah.
We did the
Everyman. Was it Everyman?
Everyman programme.
was
Yeah.
it? And
Yeah.
on stage, didn't
That's
you?
right, yeah.
And you've worked with me in Camberley Spiritualist Church.
I
haven't
did,
you?
Jane, yeah, it was really good. Really
Yeah.
loved that, yeah.
Yeah,
See, I've known Darren since he was 18.
that's right.
When I
you
first
did,
came
Darren.
to you for
Yeah,
a reading, that's
yeah.
right, yeah.
And then you suggested Darren should develop his gift.
I
That's
did,
it, I
indeed.
remember that,
He
yeah.
definitely, I could see it around his aura.
Yeah.
Talking about auras and orbs, there was a few going over there just now around you, Craig.
Was there?
Little blue sparkle auras.
Oh God, we used to get that a lot in the circle,
We
didn't
did, didn't we? Yeah. We done a lot.
used, I mean, we used to get a lot of that.
Yeah,
That
we
was-
used to do lots, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean that circle was quite spooky, wasn't it? I mean, if we take it online, I mean, I'd love to have had that original circle.
Oh, blimey, there was quite a few of us as well, wasn't there? So
Yeah, there was.
a lot of
I mean,
energy.
the energy there was amazing. I don't know whether it would reproduce on camera because. I mean, we used to get lights, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we used to get energy balls going round the room.
Table tilting.
Table tilting, tables
Yeah.
jumping around.
I'm sure Phil can remember that as well.
Yeah, old Phil was talking about it the other
Was he?
day. Actually, yeah, he'll be actually part of the
Wow.
part of this too when we do the online thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk tonight a lot about ghost stories and things like that. So anything that you got any questions on those things? But we'll have a talk about some of the spookiest experiences we've had. So certainly Circle was one that I think was interesting. What about yourself? What was the first, anything interesting that you've had in your life, particularly early on, say in your life?
Just the experience of ghosts and that, that I kind of recognised really when I kind of was about 5 or 6 years old, I suppose, and a guy in the corner of my room that I kind of saw and spoke to, and mum and dad would ask me who I was speaking to, and I would say it was a gentleman in the corner of my room. I think his name was Ray, and obviously while I was talking to him, mum and dad would then go off and clarify that Ray was actually the guy that was passed away in the house before we lived there.
Oh right, so you got clarification.
Yeah, I
of who
got
it was.
clarification. Yeah, so
Wow.
I knew that I wasn't going mad, and
No.
mum and dad obviously understood that I was talking to somebody that had probably passed away. So yeah,
Oh right.
Yeah.
Look, I had the same sort of thing, but except it was my granddad,
right,
and I used to see my granddad in the room.
yeah,
But I hadn't been told he'd died,
right, okay,
and because we were kids, so I
Yeah.
think I was about 6 again. I think it's about 6 years old. These things start
Yeah.
to happen to people,
Yeah.
don't they? And I kept on about Grandad in my room, and of course they were all shocked because they were trying to keep it from the kids. They didn't want to break it to us. I said,
Yeah.
"Grandad's in my room. Grandad's in my room."
yeah.
Yeah. So it starts early on, I think.
It
doesn't
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I had another memory as well back in the bedroom when I lived in Winchester and that, and I had 2 sets of soldiers lined out on my floor and that, and obviously no windows open, no pets in the room, just myself in the room, and I had like Britain and Germany, and all the German soldiers were all stood up, and then I woke up in the morning, all the German soldiers fell on the floor, and all the English soldiers were stood up and that, and nothing had fallen on the floor or nothing like that. So that was something that happened.
So you were
in the
shooting German soldiers
yeah,
in your
my
sleep.
yeah. But yeah, it was kind of
Yeah.
really weird. That kind of shook me a little bit, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
nothing to worry about. But
Yeah.
it's something I remembered.
I mean,
I can remember when my grandmother passed. In those days, you weren't allowed to go to funerals, and she came to me after she passed, and she had a shroud on, and she had a beautiful tassel belt, and she said, "Why are you crying? I haven't left you." And I saw thousands of bright lights and that, and she looked quite young and that, and she said she would guide me through life, and she has.
Yeah. I think we all get guided
Yeah.
by spirit, don't
Yeah.
Yeah,
we? I mean, they say, are mediums born or are they made? But I think usually you're born a medium, aren't
It's a
you?
gift.
I mean, all of us, when it started, we used to get experiences in childhood. I think all of us, and all the people in the circle that we were talking about earlier, we all had experiences when we were kids. And then I think when you sit in a circle, what you're really doing is honing the gift. You're developing what's already there, aren't
I
you?
believe so. Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes we used to have people come and sit in the circle that I wouldn't have said they were mediumistic, but they were certainly had a sort of energy power that made the circle help fuel the circle. So
Absolutely.
sometimes that's just as important
Yeah.
as having the mediums, isn't it? Because you need those people who are the energy generators, particularly when
yeah.
you're doing the sort of the deep clairvoyance and trance work and things like that went on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about anything? Have you ever had any interesting apparitions?
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes have seen things in the corner of my eye. You kind of think that you're kind of going mad and seeing things, but the thing is that it keeps happening to me, or has done in the past. And you see things in the corner of your eye, if it be on the motorway, or just passing in the street, or even in the bedroom. I tend to see things in the corner of my eye, and before you kind of home in, and that it's gone.
So you see it like in your peripheral
Yeah,
vision?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've actually sometimes seen, not often, but I have sometimes seen figures walk across
Yeah.
a scene. Like
Yeah.
in when you're doing a demonstration of mediumship, I've seen figures walk in through the room, but you
Yeah.
haven't got time to talk about it because
because
you're doing a
you've got
link,
Yeah.
And I remember going round. I had to help promote a movie called House on Haunted Hill. I remember. And in order to part of the promotion, they wanted to take me to a stately home, and I remember we went to Longmead,
Okay.
and I'm walking down the corridors there. I was talking, and I said, "Oh!" I suddenly saw this woman walk out of the wall, across it, and I said, "What the hell's that?" I was just seen a woman walk across there. He said, "That's been seen many times,"
Wow.
and I had no idea because
Yeah.
I wasn't. You didn't do any research on the place before I went there, so it was
No.
completely out of the blue for me, and. Yeah, and I remember seeing that.
Can you sense anything here, Darren, tonight? Because there is a presence here, and I can feel it, and I know you can feel it, because I keep getting loads of orbs going around, and I know there's somebody here
Okay.
walking up and down around by this table.
Okay.
Well, we do get sort of stuff here, don't we? Quite a
Yeah,
lot.
So
but
you-
yeah.
Because sometimes I've heard hobnailed boots go across the ceiling.
Yeah, we've had that here. When nobody's around, we've
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
all
late
sorts
at
of
night.
weird sounds going on, and
Oh,
walking
okay.
across the ceilings. And there's nobody in the office because we're the ones locking it
Last
all up.
person,
So
yeah,
we know
yeah.
no one's
Yeah,
here, and yet it's not a rat scurrying across or anything. Yeah, I think if we start doing the proper seances here, I mean, I
that's a good
think
result. So
because it already builds the energy up here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's- the places do
This
sort of
is
get
a
this
Georgian
energy. don't
building.
they?
It goes back to 1800.
1885, I think it
And
was.
there is a presence here, definitely. It's got a nice energy. Because you noticed that when you come and said, I like
yeah.
the energy.
Yes, I did.
And I know they like us because I feel the spirit around here very strong.
Mm.
Do you remember another one we did, wasn't it, when we
On
went
the
to?
boat.
Well, I was thinking about Athelston House.
Yes.
actually,
Yeah,
because that's something we all did together, wasn't it? Because
It
we
was.
took the whole sort of group
yeah.
on that BBC Two's Everyman programme, and we went round Athelston House, and I didn't see a lot of the time because they put us all in different rooms.
They did, didn't they? That's right. Yeah.
I remember
Because-
scaring Christine to death by telling them that the corpses were laid out in that
That's
room,
right.
and that bed you're laying on, you'll actually be laying on the same place they would lay the corpses out. And she didn't sleep all night. did
That's
she?
right.
And
She
she went
did.
down in the hall and sat in the hall all night.
Yeah.
Did she? Oh, bless her.
I didn't.
Wow.
I'm only joking.
An alarm went off about 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
And a log had come out all by itself and came
Placed
down and
itself.
landed in the middle of the room. Do you remember the fire alarms went
Yeah, I
off?
remember the fire alarms went off. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
And then she was absolutely petrified, but we had to go into the main room that had a chapel, and also we could feel a presence, and the lights were going dimmer and dimmer, and I can tell it was the best night's sleep I
Was it?
had. It was wonderful, wasn't it, Craig?
It was a big four-poster bed. It was great. But didn't the piano play too sometime
Yes,
during the night
yes.
too? There
Yeah.
was that piano.
Yeah,
Okay.
Was it in the landing or something like that? They had a piano. I can't remember
yeah,
quite
it
where
was
it
in the
was
landing
now.
because they had an oil painting of the Duke of Wellington just above
And the piano started making noises in the light, and again nobody was there.
And
No,
the
no.
little boy that lived there with the owners said to me, Jane, there's all wind coming down there. I said, listen, darling, it's the angels blowing kisses, so don't worry, you'll be all right. Do you
It's-
remember that little
yeah.
boy, George?
Yeah, I think so.
Because
It was a private house now. It was pub. You could visit it, but
it's
Right,
been
okay.
bought now by a multimillionaire. They don't live there anymore, Patrick. And Andrea, her name was.
yeah.
And they sold it. But it was a lovely, lovely house
Oh, it
and
was.
building.
Indeed. Yeah.
And definitely things did go on there. I mean,
Yes.
I think we had some genuine phenomena, but always, of course, impossible to catch on camera, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, these things were happening during the night, and that sort
But
of
there
thing.
was a presence of the gardener that used to do all the grounds because they had a cupboard with the gardener's hat in still because he used to do all the topiary and that, and we kept feeling a presence there.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting because sometimes people say their house is haunted and you found nothing whatsoever, and you always got to expect the unexpected for these things to happen because you can't make reports and things happen. And we've been to some very interesting places. We went to a haunted barge boat, didn't we, Craig?
Yeah,
And we
that
had
was
all
mentioned
phenomena
before on the
that
channel,
happened
wasn't we? But that
there.
was weird.
Yeah, very weird. You had to go on a rowing boat to go to this boat, and it was all about 3 a.m, all the mist and everything,
Wow.
quite creepy.
Yeah.
And then literally we had to walk a plank to go on this boat. You were so frightened you're going to go plop in over the side, didn't we, Craig?
Were you in the circle right at the beginning? I can't remember. There was one incident we had when I had it first opened it up in Shirley, right over.
No.
Oh, you were
No,
because we
Shirley.
had it. I did it in pitch black,
Right. Okay.
and we had a figure or something that walked through the room. We heard the door, heard it open,
Yeah.
and the door didn't open. It sounded like a door opened, and they felt click, click, click. Walked right through the middle of us,
Wow.
and it walked right to the other end. And then when it finished, the kettle boiled. And we went to
I
the
remember
kettle,
you
and
telling me a
it
story
wasn't
about
boiled
this.
up. It wasn't plugged in.
Yeah, I remember
The
you telling a
kettle
story
board
about
being
this.
plugged
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest. That really got things started.
Oh, I wish they would do that here.
Yeah, we must get that energy back.
Yes.
I mean, we must get that energy back again. I mean, I don't know whether having cameras around would
also
work.
with Danielle, she always seems to have doors banged behind her and there's nobody there. Sunday we were at a historical building, a Tudor house,
Yeah.
And she said, Mum, come here, can you feel it cold? I said, oh, it's lovely. And that. And they were talking about ghosts, and there was this big, solid, heavy oak door, and it went bang, and she screamed and jumped up the air.
I mean, it really did bang,
Yeah.
big time. Yeah.
And it really frightened her. And the same happened to her when we went to Reading, in the concert hall. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It always seems to be with Danielle.
She seems to get doors slammed.
Yeah.
I think she slammed too many in her lifetime, actually, in temper when she was a teenager. It come back to haunt her. But I've got that on camera, actually.
Have you?
Yeah, I'll put it as a little clip, and we can put it up 1 week.
I got this door, and I would push it, and there's no way anybody could have just put it. It was so solid and heavy. So we were going from one room to another, and it's a solid oak door. And she's just talking about going, oh, do you feel anything here, Mum? It's cold. And I said, oh, it feels nice. And it went bang, and she jumped up.
That was the old Tudor house in Southampton, which
Yeah.
is really a very old building. Which sadly, I was annoyed because they wrecked it. They made it look like an airport waiting room in some places. Where they made it sort of more accessible and ruined it. But apart from that, it's still got the vibes.
It was by the stairs, and they had paintings. Oil paintings of somebody that saved it and going right back.
Yeah.
And there's apparently been a little girl appearing there, and also a puppy dog that was there, because we actually saw the stuffed puppy dog. Do you remember in that class?
Oh, was that? I didn't
Yes.
thought that. No.
And I think when Danielle was talking about it, they were playing tricks on her. And I can remember once going to the Broadlands, and I was invited by the butler, Vic.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were going up these stairs because they're all away for the weekend, and there was a oil painting of Edwina Mountbatten, and I could smell all this lovely gardenias. Wasn't a very attractive woman, is she, darling? And all of a sudden the lights went bang like that. Oh, she didn't like it.
Nice.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was the time, because we used to know the butler now.
Yeah.
He won't get in trouble now, because I'm sure he's long finished his job there.
Yeah,
But,
so, yeah.
that Lord Romsey's
Yeah.
place, wasn't it? And had permission that we could go in there when they were
We
away.
stayed the weekend
and we
at
stayed the weekend
Orbs.
once he'd asked permission. But he showed us round at night, round
Yeah.
the old
Oh,
manor
nice.
house there. And that had some pretty weird vibes to it.
Yeah.
Too.
Definitely. And I did see the ghost of the little girl, and she was holding these, what do they call them, Ninja turtles with sweets in, and that. And when I said to Vic, he said, can you say any more? I said, well, I saw this dress and described how it was. He said that's what she was buried in, and with those 2 containers with those Ninja turtles, because she died very young, because she had cancer. And the mother could look upon where she was buried in the grounds and everything. But it was all drawings everywhere that are pinned in the study and everything.
So maybe we could take a few questions from people now. I mean, I know some of you have been putting your questions in, so have a think, put your questions in, or any of the interesting experiences you might have had yourself, and we'll see if we can talk about them, describe them. And don't forget, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and if you really want to really help this channel, don't forget to become a patron. Have a look in the description below of the video, and you'll be able to see how to become a patron and get some of the behind the scenes stuff. In fact, I'll put that little one you said about Danielle up on the Patron channel for us, and let people see it there. So if you're a patron, I'll pop that up.
She nearly died, and there's this girl dressed as a goth.
So here we go. Ches is saying here, is it really easier to contact spirit during Halloween?
Well, it's easy to contact any time because it's a pagan thing. It doesn't have to be Halloween, does it? Because they will come through to you naturally, won't they,
I think
Darren?
so, yeah.
You don't have to be Halloween.
No.
It's just that so people seem to think witches and all things like that, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose when we were all in pagan times, I used to think that was a time when the veil between the two worlds came close. I think there probably are. I mean, I think there are certain times that are more spiritually powerful than others. I mean, I went to India for Shivarati, and that had a very special energy to that moment, and the energy builds up to that moment. So if that's the case for something like Shivarati, which is a highly spiritual time, or recently Diwali, which was the opposite, much more, well, not the opposite Halloween in many respects, very, very uplifting period of time with the victory of the light.
I'm looking at you, Crane, I laugh, and I've got to say it, that figure behind you, that Edward,
This one.
he looks like he's just been dug out the catacombs, and with you being in front of him, it's quite spooky.
does, doesn't it? It does.
I feel halfway to the catacombs. In fact, we went to the catacombs, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was another fascinating
Yeah, you can
place.
see the bodies there, because the Roman people were quite small,
Mm.
and they used to go down the catacombs, and they used to have feasts down there, didn't they? And
They used to eat with the
Food.
dead.
Yeah.
Eat with the dead.
And because the Mexicans dig up their dead, and they wash them, and they dress them. Did you know that?
Yeah, I've
Craig?
heard of that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
No.
I've heard,
Yeah.
heard of that.
And because all these people, you can see, you know, some of them got flesh on.
Yeah.
They might put a cigarette in their mouth and everything, because they believe they're looking after them. you see.
Some tribes believe you've got to eat the dead, eat the bones of the dead, and they eat, on certain times of the year they'll eat the bones of the dead ground up.
Yeah.
He's not safe, is he?
Yeah.
Poor,
Yeah.
poor George.
Yeah. But sorry, we didn't warn you about that before you came, did we?
He's a tarot reader by trade.
So let's see if there's any more questions coming up that Matt will be putting forward. Is it safe to use the Ouija board?
Well, if you've got a controller, which is a medium, then, I mean, my favourite film's Blythe Spirit with Margaret Rutherford and that, and because people think you just conjure people up. But you've got to have somebody that knows what they're doing, a controller or a medium, because you'll find that some people that are trapped between the two worlds that haven't, they'll come and tell you good things, but also they make you, if you've got a drug problem or drink problem, they will attach themselves to you, so you have to be most careful.
We used it, didn't we, Darren?
We did. In
We
the
did it
circle,
at the circle.
We did, yeah.
And I seem to remember you were the one that got that strange message about living in Rose Cottage, was it? Was it you that had that?
Blimey, I can't remember, Craig, that one.
There was someone there that was given the message,
Mm.
you will live in Rose Cottage, and then the next week they got a confirmation of a place they were going to go to live, which was called Rose Cottage,
Wow,
and they ended
okay.
up living in Rose Cottage.
Wow.
Mm.
What happened? Do you remember what we did with that Ouija? Well, it was all quite safe, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when
we
did
had
it?
some good experiences on there, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think everybody enjoyed it and everybody got involved, and yeah, it was used
I mean, it was
correctly.
safe when we did
yeah,
it. And
absolutely, definitely.
the only thing I found, it was a bit slow paced.
Yeah.
I mean, all the mediums sat around you because know that she says la 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 la. Then you got Annie Smith at so and so says this, you know, rather than all this fiddling around with one of these, you know.
My greatest experience was the table tilting, though. When we done
Yeah.
the table tilt with Phil, and it obviously pushed Phil up against the wall and that, and
Yeah.
you know, you can kind of question that really what was happening. It was just
Because we used to get the table. I had the sort of like a tallish, smallish table.
That's
Was it
right,
a
yeah.
cards table? Was
Sorry?
it a card table?
It was a bit
It
bigger
was
than
like a card
yeah,
table,
yeah.
but it was quite fairly light.
Yeah.
But we would put our hands on it, but nobody would be lifting it. You'd literally put. Well, I think we used to put one finger.
Yeah, one finger.
So we agreed to all put one finger just on the table, like
That's
you
right.
would on here, like that, and everybody had one finger. And then next thing it starts to rock, and
'cause
nobody's
it starts questions.
pushing.
I said no
because we're all serious.
Yeah.
We're all mediums,
Yeah.
and none of us want to sort of putting faking anything up,
No.
just begin silly.
Yeah.
And we all put, and it started moving.
Yeah.
And we started asking it to tap out letters.
That's
didn't
right.
we?
Yeah. One tap for the S and two tap.
And then
for
it
the
went completely haywire.
It did. It pushed Phil against the wall.
What? Phil?
Yeah.
Muscular Phil?
Yeah.
Hang on.
He'll remember it. Cause
Because he was saying about it the other day.
Yeah,
He said, do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly. I remember it really
Yes,
well.
it did, didn't
Yeah,
it?
it did.
And we were just literally,
Yeah, just one finger on the table.
With a finger on the table,
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I opened my eyes because I mean I saw the table going across and that, and I thought someone's bound to be, you know, lifting the table up or doing something. And I opened my eyes and everyone was.
And I noticed
Yeah.
that everybody was taking their fingers off.
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
nobody, and nobody had any feet
No,
underneath
no,
or anything
no.
to
No,
cheat
it
things.
was completely real.
It was complete, and that, I mean, we weren't doing it on telly or anything like
No,
that. It was
it's
done just for our own
completely
help.
real, yeah. But,
And that was really, I mean, we used to get some amazing phenomena happening
we did.
in that circle. We've got to bring it
This is
back
what we
together.
need to bring it
we
back,
must
yeah.
bring it back together and bring it here.
Yes.
And hopefully we get the same sort of phenomena again. But we'd have to do it in
You need to
darkness.
have blue lights on, Craig, if you're going to do
We'd
that.
have to do it in darkness or red light or something.
No, you need a red light or a blue light if you're going to
Yeah.
do
We did it.
physical
We did it mainly with red light, didn't we?
Yeah, we did use red light. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I did it in full darkness, but then of
Yeah.
course you can't see things like. But that's when we started getting
Because
all the lights.
remember,
That's
there
right.
are a lot of people that cheat, because we went
Oh,
on occasion
absolutely.
that they were talking about spirit writing, automatic writing.
We
So I
done,
won't mention the people's names, but I noticed this chap went down to his not garden, shed, a lodge sort of thing, and they were singing in complete darkness, I Want to Be Free, Freddie Mercury's song, do you remember? And he said, oh, look, spirits wrote and that. I thought, you lying
Oh,
so-and-so.
yeah.
I saw you go down there and scribble that. And then, because years ago they used to have like a tambourine and a bell and things like that. There was no psychic phenomena. The spirit world didn't come because they knew exactly what he was
And
like.
everybody sat there with their mouths open thinking they're watching something
He was
real.
bringing
It was complete
Louis
nonsense.
Armstrong through, Michael Jackson through, you name it,
Oh, we
they
had
all
some
came
real
through.
Blimey.
We had some real bad. We went to two actually. We went to another one and I had to drive a long way to get to it too. And I was so cross with what I saw there. I was so angry. And there was an Indian group there that had brought their family because they obviously wanted to get in touch with a young son who had died. And all the brothers were there, the whole family. And he was paying a lot of money, £100 a person or something it was. It was quite expensive, wasn't it? And they were given this complete, total
Victorian voice.
nonsense in a Victorian voice. And the guy would sit tied up in the chair and then miraculously get out. But you could see it was all faked up. It was horrible,
They had these,
horrible work.
Trumpets, like a dancer's hat, all painted a luminous paint. Once again, we had Judy Garland, Freddie Mercury, I don't know what it is, and they're all dancing. I thought, that's a guy in a black suit playing that. I thought, naughty part of me, thought, I'm going to put my foot out and trip him up. And he was going along, and you all had to hold hands. You weren't allowed to wear jewellery. In fact, it's a medium that mustn't wear the jewellery when they're doing physical phenomena. And he had the same, good evening, everybody, like that. And it made me so angry.
Yeah.
And there was a lady sat next to me and said, is that you, darling? Have you suffered and are you out of pain? And it made us so angry, me and Craig. I couldn't even stay behind afterwards to have a cup of tea.
It makes me so cross because, like, when we were doing our circle, we were getting real physical phenomena.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know that the same thing happens in Stansted and Gordon Higginson and that they all get. But as soon as you get somebody that does all these theatrics, you know, greetings from the spirit world, we from the higher realms are here for you this evening. That's what they speak now. What's going on here? You know, I mean, ridiculous. I mean, you don't need to put the funny voice on.
You can
You
ask
don't
some
do it when you do
questions,
it. Yeah, let's get some more questions.
Yeah.
So if Matt can stick up another question for us, please, Matt. When did you first start to see auras?
Well, all of us?
All of us. Let's ask Darren first, because you're our guest tonight, Darren. So
I think late teens, I guess, becoming more, known to auras and that. I started to recognise more auras, I guess, around about then.
yeah.
And seeing around people, yeah.
And would you see that in normal light or
Normal light, sometimes, yeah. I mean, if you're speaking to the person, and obviously you're speaking to them and you can kind of, see it around them, I guess, one-to-one. But yeah, when I'm walking out around town and stuff like that, I don't normally see. But it's not something I'm...
Jane and I both had a similar experience. I wonder if you had the same thing, because as a child I used to see an orange light, a bright orange light, circular.
No,
around.
mine
Jane
was-
had the same.
Mine was huge, and I used to say to my mother and grandmother, there's an orange ball of light following me. It's like a physical phenomenon.
Yeah.
And because my mother used to say, don't keep on about the orange light,
Yeah.
And because my mother, then she comes out with things now. Do you remember you used to on about that orange? And I actually saw it, and it was quite like the shape of the moon, and it was wobbling along. It had like grey going through it and that. And I think that was something protecting me.
I remember when I first came to have a reading from you, and from the moment I walked in, I remember you saying there was a light around me.
Yes.
I can remember that when I first came to see you.
Yeah, I
You
did,
said
and
that,
I felt, because you're quite a sensitive, I would say, an emotional person, and you've got kindness in your heart, and I was intrigued because I heard the spirit world said, we want to use him,
Right,
we want to use him.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
Yeah.
And a whole journey began, didn't it?
didn't it? Yeah.
It did. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
long journey. We're up
It
to
was.
here.
We
really.
are, yeah.
Long
So many years
journey
I've noticed all the
upstairs.
people that were in the circle, large number, apart from those that had to go abroad and things, all, if we meet, it's like it's yesterday.
Exactly
Yes.
that, Craig. Yeah,
You know,
exactly that.
I think when you do spiritual work with somebody, it's like you've transcended time. You know, it's like it 20 years can pass and it's exactly as it was.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so keen to, you're keen
Does
to
another
join.
person
Yes.
want to ask?
Let's have
Darren
another
something?
question then,
Yeah.
please, shall we soon? Can you help the ghosts back to the spirit world, or are they like impressions or recordings on this world?
Do you want to answer that, Darren?
I mean, I can't really answer that truthfully because
No.
I didn't get too much of that.
No.
What happened, the ghost back or anything like that. I mean, it's not something I've kind of done
No.
really myself. But yeah,
What about if you meet somebody like a ghost or somebody that's trapped between the two worlds?
yeah. I mean,
you can do that.
yeah, I can
know
do
you
that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've done that.
I think it's a bit of both, isn't it, really? I think a lot of what they called residual energy was the word that was bandied around a lot. But I suppose is what it is. There's a certain amount of energy that's tapped into a place. That's why certain places like stately homes we talked about, I don't know if the spirit there is still walking around those places for all eternity. I think what we're picking up is like a recording, something that we pick up. But then there's also obviously conscious spirits that come through us through mediumship, but maybe sometimes some hold back. You know, they might have a fear about going to the next world. They might have a fear of hell or something like that.
They might have a fear and think, I'm not going to that woman Jane Hamilton Parker because she'll clip me round the ear.
It can work like that too. The spirits also are nervous of us sometimes. I've noticed that when we do a mediumship, you've almost got to coax them and say, look, I'm here to help you make that communication. You've got to have that communication with the spirit there.
Yeah.
Because you can't just bring people back from the spirit world. It has to be at the right time that somebody makes a connection. Because people think if they go to a spiritualist church, then they're going to get that person through. It doesn't work.
It doesn't. No, you can't just summon. No, you can't just summon.
Because you think the universe is vast. You think the spirit world's vast, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't summon any spirit. They say. That's what they say with the Ouija board. You don't summon a spirit, and this is why I get cross again with some of the nonsense that's been put on television about, is there anybody there sort of nonsense that they do on the ghost shows, I mean, there's many of those, and that makes me cross again when you know the real thing can exist, and then they fake it up for TV. So maybe we get another question now. I think would be quite interesting. What are your thoughts on the legend of Bloody Mary and portals in mirrors, especially when a mirror faces another mirror?
Well, years ago, they used to light a candle on Halloween in front of a mirror, and you were meant to see the man you're going to marry, or a lover, or anything like that.
Mirrors have always had a kind of a fascination for people. Yes. I mean, when the first mirrors were polished onyx, weren't they? So they were black. So you always had this mysterious feeling. You could only see part of the mirror, and everything behind you was darker. So I'd imagine that when they used the onyx mirrors, it was kind of like slightly weird because it's not quite a full reflection. Yeah. So you've got this darkness in the background. And I think there's always been something, when you show someone a mirror who's never seen a mirror, like when you take a mirror, say, to the middle of the Amazon jungle and hand them a mirror. My granddad used to say this when he went to Nigeria. How often
did he do that then, Craig?
No, Granddad had his shaving mirror. Granddad had his shaving mirror, and he was an explorer in Africa, and he would go into areas where they'd never seen completely uncontacted peoples, and he'd show them a mirror, and they were terrified and fascinated at the same time. So this is why we have this fascination with mirrors, and whether a mirror can actually be some form of portal, I don't know, because I think it's something it scares us a little bit, and that scariness kind of makes us
like Ghostbusters, doesn't it? Here, but I remember looking in the mirror,
a lot of talk about
and I saw an image with white lines going across. You get these after image, and I definitely saw a previous life, like a rishi.
See, one of the things I enjoy doing more than anything is looking in the mirror. Actually, I find it very uplifting.
Mirror on the wall.
Very uplifting experience. But you can also, there are techniques you can do where you look in the mirror actually, because if you, instead of looking into a mirror, you gaze into a mirror, all right? Rather than look at yourself, you gaze, just like you would gaze when you look at auras, but you gaze, you don't look at yourself, you gaze. You will start to see your face start to take on extremely strange forms.
That's what I just talked about.
And the face will move around and jump around into all sorts of strange... And it makes me wonder, what are you seeing? Because they use this in yoga something, or some forms of advanced yoga, what they call trakata, where you look to one eye, you look to the other eye, then you look to the third eye.
What if your boss eye did?
You end up feeling it. But it's supposed to I believe it's supposed to also help to reveal a person's past lives.
Okay.
And it's also a stepping stone towards telepathic communication. In fact, we could even try that when we do the circle. I'll teach that technique.
Question,
okay, let's see if there's another question coming up. Just give us a moment. How can you tell a bad spirit from a good one?
Smell.
No.
No, you can, because sometimes you get bad energy or something. There's sort of a certain smell.
How can you tell a bad person from a good person? Same question, isn't it? Really?
No, you get this feeling. You know
Yeah,
who's good. You get gut feelings in the solar plexus.
I believe
here.
in that. Yeah, I get
When you
that,
meet someone the first time, they could be the most handsome-looking Italian man in the world and the most beautiful woman, and you think, oh, there's something here I don't
not quite
trust,
right,
isn't it? You get it here.
You do.
Gut feeling.
Yeah, I
think-
think you
yeah,
do
I
get
could-
guts, don't you?
I believe in that.
Gut
Yeah, that's what I go with as well. Gut feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the same thing. If with spirits, then it's the same as you know.
Another question, please.
So that was quite interesting, Nana. Thanks for that question. I'll let Matt Russell goes with the hundreds of questions that come in. Hi, Craig and Jane. Have you visited a place that you've never felt happy around?
I do
Hats
think
off,
your
this
place
is-
is but I won't say it.
But I mean, obviously, what Gail takes Gail is sort of saying
up
it is
and down.
what sort of where have we been that we felt really bad with? There's
Well,
been
I
a few
remember
spots,
going to
isn't
Bewley and stepping in a church there, and I couldn't put my foot on the ground because it felt really not just creepy but evil, and I kept thinking, why am I picking up King John, King John? Oh, I've got a horrible feeling in that, and I don't want to be here because I feel something tragic's happened. Went round the corner, and apparently there was a King John that went round there. 'Cause some places you go in,
Yeah.
and you feel, I don't like the vibration. You could be in a modern building and you don't like the vibration.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you've got to go once again by your gut feelings.
Yeah, I think everywhere has that really. I mean, it's a job to sort of say any one particular place really. Don't know.
Well, it's like people, why is it when psychiatric hospitals, asylums, they all just seem to think they're haunted? It's
yeah, because the vibes are so bad, aren't they? It's
Not all the
like the
vibes.
vibrations there are sort of pretty bad, and people are having electric shock treatment and things. Just like Belson, they used to say the birds never sing. Actually, that's not proven to be not
I
true.
wouldn't want to go
But
there.
it is an energy there that would be quite horrific. And I think sometimes certain places you come to you don't feel quite right about. You know, some of the standing stones feel good, but some of them don't feel good. Some of those places in India had amazing energy, but then some of the places were horrible. So I suppose it's always the same, isn't
Well,
it?
I remember,
Everywhere.
I think
you
when we
go.
went to Italy somewhere, we went to church and they had all the previous cardinals and priests, and they had their little fingers. Do you remember? It's in a glass dome, and they had their rings on there, and it was all preserved. I thought, gosh, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
I think the
Remember that?
catacombs was probably one of the spookiest, weirdest places I think I've been. Because the thought that they go on for miles and miles and miles, and that somehow you could get lost in them.
Well, I think there must
I mean,
be
I think that's a
these-
pretty terrifying.
Well, they
Imagine.
had-
Yeah.
They
Pretty
have
terrifying.
these priests or that hung up like that, and they look just like that,
Did
and
they?
someone's still got flesh on them,
Yeah.
and it goes for miles and miles. That's
Oh my
creepy.
goodness,
Yeah, some strange things. So, okay, let's just take another question, shall we?
Please
Thank
do.
you for all these questions, guys. That's interesting ones tonight. What types of spirits, stroke entities, have you encountered? Types of. That's interesting.
Types of, well, most of the ones we've seen are good spirits. The only negative energy you feel is that people create it in their environment, and they can be negative and they attract bad things, like people who think they can practice black magic and get all these relics, you know what I'm talking about, and bones, and start thinking that they got abilities that's going to make them hex people and that.
Oh, I know you're talking about. You're talking about that person that stole all those
Yeah,
relics and
That's
tried to.
right.
Yeah, I know. We didn't like him. He was a nasty piece of work.
still
Wasn't he?
is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I won't mention names though, of course. But I think one of the. I don't know. But have you got anything first, Darren?
Well, no, I mean, I just generally try and put out to the universe what I want, you know, and I try and get back what I kind of put out to them. And I've always worked with like positive energy I have, and people coming through have been great, you know.
Yeah.
I've never had the feeling.
I had a few negative things around other people where people seem to be attracting bad stuff.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting ones I experienced was near a well once, and there was lights, little energies, lights flashing around it, and I was convinced that was some form of spirit energy, of nature spirit. You know, I mean, it was just little flicks of light that were going like this, and it wasn't fireflies or anything like that, because people could get
Where
easily
was that
confused.
then, Craig?
That was an area near what's it called, where the pyramid thing is, in Winchester.
Farley Mount?
Farley Mount. It was near Farley Mount. A well near Farley
Yeah,
Mount.
we got
A
two
sealed
wells
one.
too.
Sorry?
We got two wells in Italy.
Yeah, we got wells in our place in Italy. We might get some spirits from that
I
perhaps.
hope
But I
so.
think wells And I think springs, I think there's a special energy with that, because if you take, for example, the wells, the springs that are by in Bristol, not Bristol, in Bath, but Roman baths in Bristol. They built the cathedral there, or the church there, over the old springs of the Roman springs, and the Romans used to treat these as sacred sites, because this was all the Mithralism sort of religion, and the other god I can't remember the name of now, but they were all the springs, and even Stonehenge they reckon has springs nearby, so, and underground waters and streams. So I think there's a lot connected with the powers that run under the earth, the water wells and things. We think you can dowse for them. There's another thing we did, didn't we?
Did,
dowsing
did
you dowse near ley lines then?
Yeah, we dowsed for ley lines. We did it on BBC.
That's right, we did. I was up on a self-downs.
And you're in my book with your with your rod still,
yes,
even there to this day in the illustrated version.
Take the next question.
Okay, can we have another question? So, Christina Lowe, who we know.
Yes.
Have any of you had experiences with possession or exorcism?
Well, the Catholic Church really like doing these things, you see, because it's good for business.
Yeah.
But I have seen somebody, I had one person that came to me, and I could smell all this sulphur smell around her, and I was trying to do healing, and suddenly she said, well, the day before she came to me, I was cleaning something out, and all this hot water, I was cleaning something, it went all over me, and I had to run indoors, get these peas and put all over from the refrigerator, and that. And she said a funny thing, she said, did you get burnt last night? And I thought, she's either schizophrenic or taken over. Quite a strange girl, because she's keep turning up. And I done healing. I said, listen, my dear, people like myself have no fear. It's you that's got to fear us, not the other way round. Anyway, she, as I said, I was doing healing on her, and I felt all this sulphur smell, and I would say she was possessed. And she used to get up in the night, and her husband used to have to take her out and go on the boat, because she wouldn't sleep and that, and she used to attract things. And I believe eventually they moved and that, because she was attracting all this sort of negative energy, and you definitely saw a darkness light around her and that, and she was quite spooky looking and that, and then you just got to be stronger than them. That's the only time I've experienced a possession.
Have you ever seen anything like
I've
that?
never not.
No, I've seen some people that have claimed to be possessed, but I've been in all the cases that I've ever seen, I would have said I think it's psychological, because they didn't have in their own. I mean, I think if you saw someone who was quite normal and then would go into a possessed state, that would be questionable, wouldn't it? It'd be strange.
But this girl was having like foam coming from her mouth. She definitely was, and she had a deep voice and that, and started talking. And I called on for my spirit helpers and guides to help me, and the protection of light. So you've got to be stronger. And when she left, she never came back again, I'm glad to say.
Thank goodness. Yeah. We don't want them
put you off your tea, Craig. Rice pudding.
All sorts of problems. Yeah, okay, that's a good one, Jane. That's interesting. That's the first time I've heard you tell me that.
Yeah, I've seen many things.
So obviously, when you worked in the psychiatric wards, you would have seen a lot of cases that could have been.
That's what attracted me to
it. I thought it was saving money personally.
Here's a real nut.
I've been completely lucid ever since.
Here's a challenge for you.
Let's have another question then, if we got one there, Matt. You can scroll down the list and have a look for that one. What is spiritual protection behind a cross? Buddy's got one. Oh, that cross! Oh, that cross. That's actually a coffin behind you. It's not a cross.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, there's this one behind us here. He's thinking that's on the table, I expect. That's actually on the light up coffin. It is.
There was an unwelcomed guest that came with the key, and he tried it on with me.
It's a cross on a coffin. They can't see it from the. I can see from the camera angle. They can't see what. Move it around a bit. You can see what it is. You can see we've got a coffin there. I think it lights up, doesn't it?
No, you don't light up anymore. No, we don't want to.
Some of the things here will work, don't they? I mean, you've got that bird works, doesn't it?
Well, do you want a little...
There's danger ahead.
Jane's got sound now.
Jane's got all the kids.
This is my favourite.
Turn it to the camera so they can see it, Jane. Turn it to the camera. I don't think they can see the pictures on that.
Do you see it?
She'll be dying to play this, though, hasn't she?
Jack Nicholson, I think it is.
All right, I'll do. I think and this going to turn it off and we go all the way through.
Well, I can't because it's trapped in there. Yeah, she's going now. Is she?
I tell you, this is just a fraction. The stuff we got here is a fraction. Jane's got an attic full of Halloween
it's
because
like
every year she has to
Halloween.
buy more. Oh, I love that one. I love that one. I must get that.
In fact, I
where's-
used to have a mummy hanging from the tree, and I fixed it up so it had a blood transfusion going in the ground, and it's shake and wriggle, and the kids used to be so frightened to come up to go and get those sweets, didn't they?
Yeah, actually, our house used to be a bit too scary, particularly when they knew there were mediums live there. You know, it's like going to the witch's house, isn't it? You know. Yeah, so that was quite fun.
What's the next
So
question?
I think there's not. So that's just happens to be part of the set. That's all. So and I mean, obviously people believe in crosses. They can use crosses as a part of their protection. Any holy image, I think, if genuinely used, can be a form of
Well,
protection.
long as things are used for the power of good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what path you come from, it's all equally valid. Okay, have we got another question we can find there for us, perhaps? I've seen a big orb moving around a picture of Jesus next to my grandmother's bed while I was asking about my grandfather I'd never met. Well, it's probably, I would have thought that would be the actual spirit itself, because
Yeah, the power of
sometimes spirits
Yeah.
manifest as lights.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it, like we talked about there in the circle, we used to get sort of look like a table like this, and we get little flashes of light going round. And Jane and I even saw a massive great light that came in the middle of the room once. Just a massive great light just shimmered in the middle of the room. And I've never seen anything like it. I mean, after that, anybody ever saying that physical mediumship's not real, well, no, I've seen it. And I've seen it in my own room appear in incredible power. And this isn't just like lights in your eyes and things, or
And did that person,
pressing the eye and getting
did that
lights,
person
or
say
resting
they were
flashes.
thinking of their grandfather when they
Yeah,
saw
they
that?
were. So it would be the grandfather's spirit.
And if they
wouldn't
got a picture of Jesus, were they Catholic?
Well, they may be. Maybe people. They're not saying. But I mean, obviously, I mean, your spiritual beliefs are fine. Whatever your spiritual
Yes.
beliefs, it doesn't matter whether it's Christian or all religions. To me, are the same.
Yeah.
And I think.
All religions should be one.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And
Shouldn't they,
Yeah, I
really?
think so.
yeah, and spiritualism more or less likes to think of itself as being universal religion, that it applies to all religions, which I think is
Yeah.
quite a good thinking. And
Yeah.
I suppose that's, as mediums, that's what we all are, really. It's kind of a universal spirituality, rather than tied to any one belief system. So that's interesting. And anything else coming up? Admits is saying, when suddenly in a room you sense a strong smell, it indicates some being from another world. Depends.
In your
You know,
case,
have a bit of a
Craig,
joke about
in
that
your
one.
case.
Yeah. Anybody coming on a ghost hunt with me might get an extra number of
Yes,
smells.
very deep
Uh,
exoplasm.
But I mean, a lot of people do say, I mean, you said that earlier.
You
didn't
sense
do,
the smell,
because you can get what I call psychic breezes. You might get a tobacco smell, or you might get a perfume smell, or you might get a cooking smell, burnt toast or things like that. Or you might think, oh, what is that smell? And it feels like sometimes a decomposing body. I've smelled that.
And sometimes these things appear actually when you're doing a reading. I mean, I've been given readings to people, and you're talking about something like she was a good cook and the room fills with the smell,
Yeah.
or you say, and even sounds. I said he was an airplane pilot, and the room filled with the sound of airplanes, and we don't know where the hell it came from, because it just
Feels.
and I think spirit can, when it's
Giving
very
you proof.
meant to
Giving
give you
you
proof
proof,
and manifest like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions there for us, Craig?
Well, we'll have a look. Just wait, give him a chance. Did you ever see an angel?
I have seen an angel, actually.
How about
Oh, yes.
Darren? Have you seen it? Or with the guess you're not going to get a word in.
But the
Darren.
thing is, I
Well,
mean,
you can talk. You can talk.
no, I truthfully saying no, I haven't seen an angel. No, I haven't. But the thing is that you kind of see things, and again, you kind of think that you've seen something, and it's like out there, and you can kind of visualize and see something that is in the form of an angel. But
Yeah, and what is an angel really? I mean, it's a
Mm.
being of light, isn't it?
Mm.
So when we say you see lights manifest, couldn't you say that was an angelic form?
Yeah.
Or isn't any spirit an
Well,
angelic form?
The one
Yeah.
I saw when this lady passed was really, really big, and it's made out of 1,000 tiny little stars. And like you say, it's true, Craig. It was like a
Being of
beautiful
light.
light, and it's like, you know, and it was didn't sit with wings. It was an image of a person,
Yeah.
and no clothes or anything like that, but quite beautiful, and that. And then this lady, when she passed, this angel, she didn't have any relatives, this lady, because she looked up when she was dying, obviously, and she was saying, "Look at that angel over there." And I had to look around and I saw it. It's beautiful.
But it wouldn't have wings, of course,
It didn't
because
have
that
wings.
is symbolic. I mean,
Didn't
that
have
came
wings.
from the old
No, I
ancient.
actually saw
No,
it.
no, you
with
saw
my
a real
eyes.
spirit being, a spirit being that come for it, but it wouldn't come with wings, because that wings is a misconception. It's the
Well,
it's
some
it's a symbol of
some
symbol of,
incubines have got wings.
it's a symbol of transcendence. The wings,
Mm.
you know, all that's symbolic. But the
Tuck
actual when
your
you see
wings
it,
in under the table.
yeah, when you actually see it,
Yeah.
Keep your wings under there.
when you actually see a spirit, it doesn't have wings. I
No.
mean, it's and you know, I think the problem with all this winged angel business is it's a misconception, which takes us away from the truth, not towards the truth. But what you're describing is a truthful, real
Yeah, I can
thing
see
that
it.
happened, which others sometimes see, but many people fill it with fantasy,
Mm.
and that's where it goes wrong sometimes. So let's have another question then, can we, from you guys? And don't forget, if you're watching this show, please do support the channel, because everything we've got here with our set is being supported by your donations. So have a look in the description below and consider becoming a patron, please, because it makes all this possible. And in order for us to be able to do the future things, such as being able to do, for example, the circles and all the rest of it, we have to maintain this place. So in order to maintain this place, we need your support. So have a look in the description, become a patron. You can give a tiny amount per month if you want, or you can give a little bit more if you can, and you'll get little extras too down there in the in the patron pages, where for example, I put that little one up about Tudor House there and things like that. So it's worth it, but also we're trying to take it further and further, and eventually be able to have our own paid for spiritual centre, which we can make our own and do it in our own way, and be able to have more and more guests on, and even have a stage set there as well in time. But more questions. So, what is the most haunted place in England? The next question.
Do you know?
I thought York was quite spiritual.
I thought you were going to say you thought my house
No,
was.
no, I actually thought your house was alright, actually.
Yeah,
You've been to York? We
No,
haven't been.
no, but Winchester itself is quite spiritual.
Yeah,
It is
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Winchester here has got some. This is why we chose Winchester, because it's got a kind of a special energy to it. I mean, legend has it that Winchester was what was Camelot. They thought that Camelot was based here, and indeed it was the centre of West. It was a capital of Wessex,
Yeah.
therefore the capital of England at its time, being the biggest province at the time. And of course, Alfred with his cakes was here and everything like. But some of the little back streets and areas around here really have that energy
I
to
believe
it.
so, yeah.
I mean, when you step out of our front door here, there's a little, what was it? That worn out sort of water thing
Well, it's for
passers by.
drinking water.
But that goes right outside.
17th
There's something. No, it wasn't
And don't
17th century.
forget-
It was 15th century.
Wolseley's Palace as well,
Yeah.
the ruins.
And
still
so
in
it has-
Winchester.
So Winchester's high on the list
Mm.
Yeah.
where we are. York is a
Mm.
very spiritually minded place, isn't it? Stonehenge, I think, and Avebury Ring, I think, is my
Avebury Ring, yeah.
favourite of all the places
Mm.
in England that I've been to.
I like the old forts. Fort Nelson, that feels quite spooky. I feel at home there.
I was down in Portsmouth.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's quite spooky. You can feel the vibration of those men that live
Varanasi in India was one of the most
There's
spiritually
lots of places.
compressed places I've ever been to.
Wow.
That's where they burn all the bodies on the ghats there, and we slept there and stayed in a hotel. If you could call it a hotel, my God, what we slept in! But it was like one wall was missing, for example, straight onto a straight drop. But we stayed in that place there, and that was the strangest place on earth, because so many people have been burnt there.
Yeah.
So many bodies, and it was done with such holiness too, and all the holy men would go there, and all those strange, all the strange renunciates that would live off the ashes and things like that.
Wow.
Some very strange
Eat
stuff there.
flesh, don't they?
Yeah, some of them do. Yeah.
Ireland's quite haunted though, Craig. Southern Ireland. Celtic
Yeah, but
places.
again, I've
Yeah.
not really done Southern Ireland. I've only been to Dublin, haven't we? But I'd love to explore, because we went there
Yes.
for the Gay Burns show that time,
Yeah.
didn't we? But I'd
Right.
love to explore.
Mr.
Some of
Parker,
those places.
another question.
Can we have
please.
another question, please, Matt, if you would?
Yes.
Do you use mechanical ghost meters or use your own ESP? I use my feelings, says Jules Cousins. So do we use, well,
I don't go with those electric
not
meters.
really.
We have our senses and perceptions are heightened, so we use what we feel and our senses, and we'll be able to communicate telepathically. And I suppose really when you have a gift, you have all those things. You don't need electric currencies or
No.
meters or anything.
Well, we have used them.
White
we
noise
have,
they're talking about
Yeah,
as
well, we
well.
had white noise helped with the program White Noise, didn't I? But we have had things. We joined with a ghost group once who came along with us, and we were looking for places underneath in this of Reading, that place that time, and they brought all this stuff, and I didn't know what any of the gear was, and I go, no, it's working. Actually, you hold it against the wall, it's a metal detector, it picks up the pipes. Well, then there's another one. I think that there's an ozone detector, and I think, wow, actually, ozone, metal, you're going to get things go on all these dials, and we even ordered because we were making a program for the television, we even ordered a video that would pick up heat camera. And it all looks great on camera, and it all kind of looks good if the dial's going, but you don't need any of
No,
that,
you
really,
don't.
do you? You don't need any of
You
that. You
don't.
just need to use your mediumistic skill and
Exactly,
actually
yeah.
give proof.
Yeah.
What you need to do is, the medium needs to go in, say what they pick up about the place, and then the proof can... We came to Varney Castle that time. Did you come to that one with me on the Animal X programme for the television?
No.
Bear.
No.
Yes, you
The
did.
last
The
Bear in England one.
There was the bear.
I thought you
think
came on
were
that
there.
one,
Did
wasn't
you
it?
sit round there? You did, and you picked up. Great.
You remember
Okay.
when we went in the forest, and we found the ruins of the old castle, and they were looking for the search for the last bear in England. I'm sure you were there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I need to go back.
Oh, I'm the older one,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, yeah.
I'm the older one. I'm the one that goes into those blank spaces every now and again.
I must have been there.
I'm sure
yeah.
you were there.
Must have been
Sure,
there.
Barney
Yes.
Castle. Anyway.
Yes.
But we
I think
I've lost track myself now.
I think sometimes people can pick things up, images of ghosts. If you go around graveyards, really old ones, and sometimes people have caught images, wisp, I think.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
sorts of things.
Definitely.
I mean, I for years and years I used to do that ghost pictures, phantoms on film articles for one of the magazines, and people used to send their ghost pictures to me. And most of the time, because I really studied it to find out what phenomena can be caused by cameras, 99% of them I had to reject. Because there was always some explanation, like a camera strap in front of the camera,
Yeah.
or orbs were usually caused by camera faults. Actually, you could pretty much, and then stuff on the lens and things. But every now and again, you just get one or two that I think, now there's no way I could think of
Explain
any
it.
way of explaining that.
Yeah.
And even double exposures and things like that, there's no way you could explain it, particularly because you can't. It's a job to double expose on a camera, and then obviously people tried cheating you with apps and things like that and things
Yeah.
like that. But there were one or two that I think very rarely you get a photograph, and I suppose that's a mechanical form of doing it. Yeah. So let's have another question. Can we maybe? Can people get rid of spirits with holy water?
Let's try it.
And there he was gone.
Well, I suppose,
I think really all these things, it's like people have holy water and they pray to Holy Mother, and they might smudge things and put salt in each corner to get rid of things, and they used to draw things. I think really you have to be fearless with all these things and not worry about it, what you're attracting.
Yeah, I think when you're getting rid of spirits, I mean, you're talking about things like negative, things that are haunting places and things like that, aren't you? That's what they're thinking about there. So I suppose when we've done it, if we've ever had a situation where we've been asked to help remove a spirit, or I've gone into various places. We used to early days when we did all this work, not so much recently. But I would try to get in touch with the spirit, find out who the spirit was, and then encourage them to go over to the other side, as it were, to move on. And they're usually clinging here because of some fear.
Yeah.
You know, they've had a fear of punishment. I think a lot of that. I think the Catholic Church had a lot to do with why a lot of people became earthbound. Because you're dying, you think you're a sinner, and you're not going to want to go anywhere, are you? You're only going to stay here.
So really, in reality, you men have got a lot to answer.
All of it, really. I mean, I think. I mean, these particularly when a person's dying breath, and you're telling them scary stuff. I mean, it's not going to help them with their transition. I mean,
did Mother Teresa? She got really frightened on her death, didn't she?
She had an exorcism when she died.
Right.
She wanted to be exorcised just before she died, so she obviously had a lot of fearful things in her mind, and I think it's kind of, I think like they say that the very last thought, certainly in Vedic thinking, the very last thought you have is absolutely critical. Because that will determine your future birth, whether it's reborn in a new life or reborn in one of the spirit realms. And so that last thought is very important when we're dying. And we can't actually change it either. We can't pretend, we can't try to have a good last thought. The last thought we have is the last part of our self. The pure essence of our self is our last thought that determines where we go. But I think if you were to sort of bombard someone with lots of fearfulness, you're not going to help the spirit's journey, because I think those last days after someone's died, I think you do need to give good thoughts to that person. Like I had a load of rituals done when my mum died, for example, in India. I had them do all these special rituals to help her soul move on. Because I thought she was very materialistic and would have had trouble moving on, frankly, and that will help their soul. I think just in the same way, that.
I think people
you get rid of spirits in the opposite way.
Knowing they were loved, Craig. Yeah. And when they make the transition over, and you can imagine they're looking back, leaving the earth, and they're suddenly going to a higher realm, it's as if it feels at peace going back to God.
One of the best mantras they say for it is to use the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra has the power to move the spirits on. What mantra I'm going to do for you? He's gone! He's gone! He's gone! Come back, Craig! Yeah, but the Gayatri mantra has the power to move on spirits. That's all, I think, a good one to remember.
Well, I think there's many cultures with many things, and who's to say what's right or what's wrong, how people deal with it, as long as you're a good person.
So, shall we have another question?
Yes.
What about certain pieces of jewellery or pictures? Can these possess bad energy?
Well, do you remember years ago, there used to be a green picture of a girl.
You're not going to get a word in tonight, Darren.
Yes, he will. You can talk, babbling. There used to be a green picture of a woman. Do you remember? And it was going back in the 60s, and everybody had them on the wall. And it was meant to be bad luck. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the green.
I don't know if
houses would burn down and the painting would stay
up. Ever had one? Did you?
Possibly. But I mean, all I can remember is obviously doing psychometry.
You were good at psychometry.
Yeah, psychometry was good. Yeah, we used to place things in envelopes and that, and it was often jewellery and that we placed in there, and you could come pick up on that. So that was always good. Wow.
In fact, one of the things I did actually, because we were thinking about doing the seance room bit a little while back, a long way back actually, and I asked some of the patrons to send in objects from around the world. So I've got the envelopes with a number of things, unopened envelopes with a number of things in it that we can use as psychometry. I'd have to make sure those patrons can get online and confirm it.
Yeah, it'd be great.
But that would be quite good. We could teach some psychometry and about how objects will kind of pick up the energy of the person that's owned it through their life. But you can also, once you start digging into this psychometry, you can dig right the way back through that person's whole history, and you can tell that it's a very, very good, stepping stone towards clairvoyance, because that's what I used to use to teach you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Once I've got you, we do most of the circle was doing psychometry, and once they cracked that, suddenly you found spirit work came fast. But you need that groundwork. You need that groundwork. So we'll do that. So perhaps another one, if there's anything lurking there in the chat rooms. And don't forget, ask your questions, guys, because we need your questions as well. Anything interesting that you'd like to share with us,
And
questions
to
you
become
might
a
have.
patron, Craig.
Sorry?
Mention to become a patron.
I have mentioned about becoming
And
a patron,
about
but
my
I can
channel,
always mention
and
about
about
Jane.
my channel as well.
And Jane's
It's
got a
not
channel
all
as well,
about you.
folks, don't forget as well. All in the description. You can go and have a look at our website for all sorts of things, and you can also, get in the description below, become a patron and help to support this channel, help it all keep going, and help us to make, we've got a lot of the equipment now, we're really grateful for that, but we still need to keep it running, and we always want to build it and build it and build it until we can do something really spectacular in due course. And if you're really rich, send it this way so we can get the centre tomorrow. I mean, that's how Yogananda started. He had people helping him, and he built it into an international organisation, and it's only with the help of the philanthropists that this sort of work can really move forward, because we're giving our time for free. Darren's coming here for free, Jane's doing it for free. We do it because we love expressing our love of the truth and the spirit
Another
world.
question, and let Darren answer it.
Okay, do crystals have energy, or is it just
No,
fake?
Darren.
Well, no, I like to work with crystals. Tourmaline, I found,
That's nice.
works well with
Tourmaline?
me. Yeah, tourmaline.
What's tourmaline like then?
Just like I normally carry it actually, but not tonight. I'm not carrying it. But no, it's just a crystal that works for me. Very grounding, and I meditate with it as well at times. But yeah, I mean that kind of works for me really well. Tourmaline.
Yeah.
I used to bring it a circle as well, and carry it around me daily as well. And I think it's something that almost like a gratitude kind of thing.
Yeah,
as
they
well.
say to keep a crystal. I mean, when I had another Nadi done recently, which by the way are on the website now. You can book Nadi readings on my website. But it said to me, because they tell you to have a crystal, and it said, Craig, you've got to have diamonds. So if you can't carry them yourself, make sure Jane's loaded.
I like that Nadi reader. I want to shake his hand.
that man, I said, I'm going to cancel these services. He said, you've got to cover your wife in diamonds for my protection. So apparently diamonds are the one I've got to carry. So I thought, well, that's nice and easy, isn't it? I think I'd rather have a tourmalite or whatever it was, or something simple. Yeah. But I think they do have an energy to them, actually.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and actually, when I went to India again, because I'm enthralled with India, but when I was there was this man that I saw there who had a whole collection of holy relics, many of which had come out of Tibet. But and I was doing some side commentary, and I filmed it, and I have to put that onto the patrons pages if you want, guys. I'll put it on the patrons page. But he handed me this crystal wand, which is a really ancient crystal healing wand. He had a special name for it, which I could never remember the name of. And he put it in my hands, and blimey, like we do side commentary, and it kind of, you suddenly get the images and pictures. This absolutely blew me away. And I was thinking, because I was always very sceptical about crystals, I thought, oh, it's all nice. Crystals round the bath and make yourself feel spiritual. I thought, that's a lot of nonsense. But when he put it in my hands, I thought, I've changed my opinion about this completely. Because this had a real power, and apparently it was used for healing. And I thought it was absolutely amazing thing. So yes, I do actually. I changed my mind about crystals. I used to think it was a lot of misconceptions and nonsense, and people playing games with people, and because they're nice things, everybody thinks it's all very new agey and very Californian. But no, they're real. They're real. So we have another question.
Yes.
Why is Craig the better medium of all of you sat
You
here?
just made
no, I'm ready.
Because you're grinning, I know you so well.
He just had that in himself.
Yeah, the ego is high tonight.
Lottie Martin says, do you love a bit of light-hearted future telling, like people used to love at fairs, like simple, like Madame Zaza sees it all sort of type of things, Do you think that's all right, having that type of thing, that light-hearted sort of?
Well, I suppose if you do a reading and someone's down, it's okay to have a good sense of humour, because I think humour's very important, and very important to
Brings energy.
smile at everyone, because it makes them feel that much better and light-hearted. It's good to have a joke, but if you're doing serious stuff, you wouldn't want to.
I think it's all right having a little bit of fun
Yeah.
stuff. It's a bit like the horoscopes in the newspapers. They came up with those in the 1930s with some
I remember
signs.
doing some horoscopes for a gay club.
Yeah,
bit
they were
rude.
vulgar.
But Danny LaRue, and they asked me to do it again. I thought, no way.
You'd have to give your real name. Yeah. So it's all right, and I think I've written some fun stuff in the time in the newspaper, so I can hardly say no. But I think it's all right. But the problem is, if we have too much of it, then we forget the real stuff,
Yeah.
and it can also sometimes, when you do fun stuff, it can kind of undermine the serious side of your work, which is a shame. But then I don't like these. Sometimes you meet mediums that are so bloody serious that you think, well, they're boring, you know. So I think you need a mix, don't you? I mean, some of them they bore the pants off me. I listen to them talking, and I think, oh God, hurry up, you know. So you've got
that book you
got to
didn't like
make
them
it.
reading from on a platform in Spiritualist Church, something Patience.
Not Patience Worth. No, that was different. No, oh, you mean that female poet? What was her name? Oh, I've forgotten now.
That's no good saying.
No, you're asking me, is it? Don't ask me to remember
Come
things.
on.
I'm 68, Jane. I'm losing it. I'm losing
You
memories
lost it
daily.
before you got there. That's another question.
So let's have another question. I've tried to remember her name.
Patience Strong.
No, it wasn't. Though it was. It was all insipid,
Well, how
horrible.
would you know if you don't?
I know
can't
who you're
remember
talking
it?
about. It's that horrible, insipid poetry they used to read out. What was her name? Horrible. It used to drive me up the wall. I used to think it downgrades philosophy.
And they used to
so
do
much.
a prayer, Darren, and pray for everything in the desert, and you're nailed down on the floor and think, oh, for goodness sake, she's on the ants now.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, bless all the
Oh,
birds and bless all
God.
the dogs and bless all the cats and bless all the ants. Come on.
Yeah.
How does tarot work? Nana Rosebud's saying. Is it all manipulated by spirit to give an answer to your question? No, it's not manipulated by spirit. You shouldn't mix spirit with tarot cards.
That's true.
They always said in spiritualism that tarot cards are okay for fortune telling if you want, but you cannot do medium communication with tarot cards.
That's
Would you
right.
agree
Exactly
with
true,
that?
yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Because I mean, you can't. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I know people say, "Oh, look, I've got the High Priestess. That's somebody, a spirit guide for you." Or I've got the Queen of Swords. This is your mother coming through. She was a tough woman, wasn't she? No, you can't use that.
What
Definitely
we did
not.
use is intuition cards.
I know they were different because I designed those.
Well, I really like working with them.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, but we were using those not for spirits. So
No, not
much,
for spirit,
remember,
no.
because the intuition cards is the ones that they're out of print now, so I can't encourage you to buy them. But they were like Rorschach ink blots,
Yeah.
and we used to use
I
those.
like them.
And we used to use those, and it got you started, didn't it?
Yes,
Got
it did,
people
yeah.
started at the beginning,
Yeah.
because you used to look for the pictures, and then you
That's right.
kind of pick up something, and they said, "Okay, give me a bit more."
Like an
What
ink
do you
block,
pick up?
yeah, ink block,
And,
wasn't it? Yeah.
and people would even step on to pretty much the mediumship
Yeah,
from
yeah,
it.
yeah, for
You
sure.
just needed a seed,
Yeah.
didn't you? It needed
Yeah.
a seed. But they were good. I enjoyed those. They were clever. We did some clever stuff.
Yeah,
in
we
that
did
stuff.
back in the
We'll
day,
put it
yeah.
all. We'll do it here
Yeah.
again. We'll put it
Bring it
online.
back,
People
yeah.
can learn from
Yeah,
us.
they can, yeah.
People can learn how
Well,
to
I've got
start.
some at home anyway, so yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've got 2 or 3
Okay.
packs there still
Yeah, yeah.
from stuff, and we could use those,
Yeah.
or even use the ink blots, bigger
Yeah,
ones, and
yeah.
show them for demonstration purposes, so people can see how you could use that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, there are no real teaching mediums out there at the moment. People sell off workshops and things like that, but they're like weekend, and you think you're going to become a medium. I mean, we sat for years.
Yeah.
And it took years to get to the
Yeah.
point where we were getting the lights and where we were getting the table
Every
to,
week,
and it was every
Every
week,
week, yeah.
and it's dedicated
Yeah, it
work.
was. Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need more of that. But there's not many mediums doing that now. This is a great. Not many mediums doing it then either.
No.
And we need people to learn properly. Not all these. I want to be a medium and I get a certificate by just completing the course. So do you want to give us another question, please? We're getting close to time, actually. Have we? Hello. Oh, we've gone over time. We've gone over time. No, we're going to leave that
What
one.
do you
now then.
think?
Okay, I saw a ghost dog once. And it disappeared into thin air, says Chez. So thank you for that. So now Jane has just made it difficult for us to close the programme. I didn't realise we'd run on, guys. Thank you for
That's
so many
great
interesting
for you,
questions.
isn't it?
That was great.
And we're going to say goodbye to you all, and thank you for joining us. Don't forget, have a look in the description below before you go. Consider becoming a patron, and thank you to Darren.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Darren.
Thank
And we're
you.
going to say goodbye. Thank you all. See you soon.
See you. Bye now.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Ciao.